Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Hello and happy Wednesday to everyone. Welcome Caribbean, welcome YouTube, and welcome Facebook. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite. It is Wednesday afternoon, so this is 5.8 GLI presented by Connections 50 Plus. And with me, as usual,
I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, the other co-creator of Connections 50 Plus. Good evening and welcome to you all.
Okay, so Jennifer, today is a jam-packed day. It's not only the last day of our series on The Sky Gets Dark Slowly, and we had such great feedback from it. Yes. But most importantly, this week, this Friday, is our forum. We're so excited about that. Just now, you will get into our last segment, but we want to talk about our forum and to really encourage you guys to register, sign up, because this forum with Dr. Alison Gibbons is a fantastic opportunity for us. Coming out of everybody's life has changed. Everybody's life has changed coming out of COVID. And many of us, it's not the financial pressure, it's not the illness pressure, but it's mentally, emotionally. Where are you? And we've got questions that buzzing around our head and about how to deal with family, deal with relationships, deal with ourselves, deal with job, deal with vaccine versus unvaccinated, how to deal with people. And we don't know who to talk to or where to place the questions. So our forum is a platform.
Yeah, this is the opportunity. And I want to reach out, Terry-Ann. You know, we greet all our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. And we have been having these forums, and the forums are online. You know, it's Zoom. You could be anywhere in the world. But I am just speaking to my Caribbean brothers and sisters here, because you can pay online. It is a very easy system for payment. Why not? You know, join us, have fun with us, learn with us. You know, this is a great opportunity. We have had how many forums we had before?
This will be our 2 sex forums.
Yeah, so we're going in every month, and we have had such great feedback, you know, being together in a small group and to discuss, information that you would get that you wouldn't get normally. And as Terry-Ann said, you may not have anyone to discuss it with. So this, for me, Terry-Ann, is a special appeal to our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean to register also, you know, and join us. Because I know, as you say, with Dr. Gibbons really going through with us, and this is someone with so much experience, you know, to help us with our stress and our mess. So we're looking forward, because it's just 2 more days you have, or 2 more days, but come on board, please, and register. Click that link, register, give us a call if you're getting any problem that you shouldn't be getting. And we look forward to, you know, hearing from you. So we're going to play this hard again to give you more information about what it's all about.
Hello 50 Plus followers. Don't miss this month's Friday forum on October 29th at 6:30 p.m. We will welcome to the conversation Dr. Alison Gibbons, family therapists and gerontologists to discuss some of the issues that prevent us from living our best life on the third act stage. Let's dispel those myths around aging and instead focus on positively embracing change. Join the conversation about the ups and downs of aloneness and the challenge of trying to reach your goals without community support. So click on the registration link. Let's share and learn together on Friday, 29th October, 6:30 p.m. Empower yourself to maintain life's balance by inboxing your questions and get them answered. Let's get going 50 plus. Eliminate that stress, that mess, and those tests by joining in Connections 50 Plus Friday Forum, October 29th, 6:30 p.m. See you then.
So you've got the ad. So now we are coming back to the final episode of our series. Following the book, The Night Gets Dark Slowly, we're dealing with money. We're dealing with how do you get the financial resources to continue? How do you prevent being swindled? You know, how do we make sense of what we have? So this is a being in tune segment because we're really talking about fine tuning what we have. So pay attention. We've got a fantastic guest on board with us. So, listeners, we have been talking about the sky getting dark slowly, and we are saying we're turning on the lights. We are not letting the sky get dark on us like this. And we've been going through our series, and we're at the climax of the series where we are now going to deal with our money. Most important, because it facilitates everything. And Jennifer and I are very, very happy to welcome as our guest Keith King, who is the chairman of FIRSTLINE Securities. Keith, how are you? Thank you so much for coming.
I'm fine. Comfortable to be able to, at my age, work from home, work from the office, and it's all good.
Absolutely. Well, Keith, to get us started, you know, we've been going through this series where at Connection 50 Plus, we are saying on the 5.8G stage, we're not going to be parked up anywhere. We're going to be proactive and prepared, even though we are in the midst of retirement. And we have looked at all these different areas, and now we're coming down to money. Because, I mean, Jennifer is a financial coach, and a lot of what we do, we encourage people as part of preparing for the third act of life. You've got to make sure you've got the resources. So we want to start off this discussion by asking you this question. You know, you talk about wealth management, and a lot of people feel that that's something young people do, or if you have time. But if you are actually on the third act stage, if you're in 50s, 60s, or even 70s, and you haven't done what they say you should have done 30 years ago, is there hope? What kind of wealth management do for us?
Well, the first thing is not to lose hope. And generally in life, both for your health, physical health, as well as your financial health, is to always have a bright, positive outlook. Recognizing, of course, the realities that life is not a straight line. It goes up and down, left, right, and so on. But having a positive outlook, that this too shall pass when things are not so good. And even when things are going great, know that this too shall pass too, right? It's a up and down thing. But the recognition that you need to do something about your financial health is critical. Even though you may have done it later than might have been the best solution. It would be good if you started off when you left school or even before. I mean, there are some families that introduce their children to financial matters and start them off in the investment business, and some just in saving, but that's a start. And some in educating their children with respect to investments, that you can start fairly early, fully recognizing that it's besides a matter of knowledge about things financial, which is critical, and parents need to introduce their children to the concepts. And if they can't, expose them to someone who can. So that is a really critical aspect of a legacy. It's not just money, it's an attitude towards money. Critically, an attitude towards money, and an attitude towards growing your wealth, and a recognition that working hard is great, working smart is great, but another aspect is to have your assets work for you. And it is critical that parents convey that that concept to their children, that there's something called passive income, and your investments are what could generate wealth while you're sleeping, right? And it's not just that you have to be working hard and smart, which I said is critical, and to teach them all of that as well, but also to understand that assets can work for you, and if they can begin deploying part of the money that their parents pass on to them, or when they start to work, when they are in fact generating income of their own, if they could put aside some of it to begin investing and allowing these investments to work for them and grow their wealth. Another thing that occurred to me fairly early in my religious life, there's this parable about that it's more difficult for a wealthy man to enter heaven than a camel to pass through the needle, the eye of a needle. Well, one would think that suggests that all wealth is bad, and that one should not attempt to grow one's wealth. Now, I'm not saying that is a prevalent thought that keeps people back, good? But I am aware that there aren't that many religions, including Judaism, that preaches that concept that wealth is bad. Some religions may, in fact, permit a healthy perspective towards wealth and financial independence. So if you have the right attitude towards investing your money, growing your wealth, sharing your wealth, because you have to have wealth to be able to share it. Other than that, what you may, and there may be another description for you. It might be you'll be described as a thief, right? If you are not generating wealth yourself and with the capacity to share it with your people around you, your employees, people in need, the church, and whomever else. But it is critical to have a proper attitude towards this concept of wealth and living well. And I think that that is a very important concept to impart. Sharing it, making it. Another thing that one needs to debunk, I think there are many people who mix up saving with investing. And well, even the matter of saving, there are suggestions that there are many people who don't even have a bank account. Right? So that their concept of saving may not be helped by the system. But it's critical to save. Some people save and they put it in the mattress or they bury it in a tin in the ground, but that is a start. The second thing is to be able to take that saving and invest. And the thing to invest in is equity as a large part of your portfolio. Many people feel that most of their assets should go into a savings account, and they look at their bank account and they feel very good. But inflation eats in to savings big time, because the return on savings is generally quite poor. It's essential to have savings because, you know, there's things can happen, you know, a member of the family or even you can get ill and you need to have the ability to access some liquidity at short notice, depending on circumstances. And, you know, you may have to pay for children's education and so on. But you need to have a flow of liquidity, if not an absolute amount of liquidity. And maybe I should explain that a little bit, because I don't want to get too complicated. There is something of having an absolute amount of savings, but it is also important to have a flow of savings so that you don't go and put all of your wealth into savings, even if you feel that you should be more liquid. It is important to have maybe a part of the portfolio into some sort of fixed income instrument that would flow liquidity over time, right? So you don't have to have all the money lying down in a saving account and to be able to watch it. But if you could have it in an instrument which generates the amount of liquidity that you could perceive may come to need from time to time. But the most critical point that I wanted to make is that the need to invest in equity and stocks, another word for it, are the thing that historically generates a more growth than savings or even fixed income, right? So that is a concept that needs people to be educated about. If you are to grow your wealth, it's highly unlikely that, unless of course your day job generates huge amounts of wealth for you, it's if you want money to work for you, a large percentage of it has to be in something that could beat inflation, and that tends to be stocks and equities and generally, right? There are many other classes of investment. You have real estate that if you buy the right type of real estate,
at the right time.
at the right time and at the right price, and so could appreciate in value over the years. So that's a class. But often enough, people who invest in real estate face the fluctuations of the economic cycle. Economic cycle is something that we have to live with. There are times when prices are up and times when prices are down, both for equities and stuff like real estate. So sometimes it might be better depending on the stage of your life and how much assets you have you could invest in real estate, but in a different type of real estate. There's something called a real estate investment trust, REIT, that give you exposure to real estate and the capital appreciation that may come with it, but is a lot more liquid. And also it's divisible. I know I'm rambling on here, but at our stage, or the stage that I think the for possible audience who in the retirement type situation, they have to be concerned of having income for themselves, but also when they eventually pass, how are they going to distribute their assets? And often enough, if you have a house, let's say, that may not be easily divisible amongst your children. And often enough, you have a situation where you will the house, or maybe if you have other pieces of real estate, you may have an apartment block or houses, and you have a number of children or other parties who you need to be key something to. How do they get access to it? Is it that they have to sell and they may not be able to sell on a timely basis, or they may have to sell, but sell at a much diminished price? So while I'm saying that real estate is a valuable item in your portfolio, you have to blend it with the amount of assets. So let's say that you have 30 houses, good, as part of your portfolio, you have them all rented out. That's a good position to be in. If you said you have three children that you need to pastor, you give them each 10 houses each, right? But if your situation is you only have one house, it's a little bit difficult, right? Advice is necessary. People like yourselves have to come to the table to give advice to the people who are approaching our kind of age, and where they need to produce a will that would create ability to divide up their estate, but also to divide it up in a way that is easily understandable, is executable, and doesn't cause too much trouble in the family. Because confusion, because I have heard of many stories of families fracturing when the parent dies and so on, brother fighting against brother and sister and all sorts of bacchanal. That's the word to use, bacchanal.
Can I just go back a bit? And I must say, we're really happy to have someone with your expertise with us. Very early when you started, you mentioned the need for the attitude change, and also mentioned the need for education. And you mentioned, you spoke about equity, and what I would like you to, well, not just clear up, but and I know there are many persons out there who may have this thinking or may have been told this without going to someone like yourself to give them that expert advice. So I want to ask, it's just a two-part. One, do you think then that, so we deal with the different ages. We deal with, let's say, the group of the 50 to 60, the 60 to 70, 70 plus. And I'm asking you the 60 to 70. So after you have done all that you thought, you know, that was the right thing in terms of investment, and then at 60 or so, 60, 65, you realize that you may need to liquidate, but you're gonna get, and you may hear talk that it's not wise at 60 plus to do any risky investments. And I heard you talk about the passive, having passive income, etc. And that the only way to really have that wealth accumulation is to have that portfolio with that combination with equity, etc. Is it do you agree with that thinking that you shouldn't do any sort of risky investment after 60?
Well, risk is, there's a technical definition for risk, which is volatility, the amount of variation in value.
Yeah.
Another element of risk has to do with knowledge. And let me give you an example. If I am a real estate agent and someone tells me about a particular property that is a good investment, I would be able to evaluate the risk attached to whether this investment is going to grow or stay stagnant or fall. If, however, I know absolutely nothing about the real estate business, that same property that is being evaluated would be perceived as being risky, right? Because there is a lack of knowledge about the particular business. So risk has to do with knowledge. It has to do with volatility of the asset. As well, it has to do with your personality. There are some people who have a big tolerance for risk and some who have none. The most people have very little tolerance for risk, more particularly defined as reduction in value, right? They don't mind the value going up. They don't mind losses. They don't mind the volatility going up.
Would you say kid to age has a lot to do with it? As we get older, it makes it worse for us?
Not necessarily. There's some people
in terms of thinking.
No, I think your personality is your personality as far as approach to taking risks. However, depending on your circumstances, you would need to behave differently. Even though your attitude to risk may not change because it's built into your DNA or whatever, your perception of taking risks and so on, your attitude may have to change. So if as you get older, you recognize you have less time likely to make investments that would go through the cycle of investment, because investment values go up and down. The closer you are to the exit lounge is the less chance you have to ride out the waves in value, right? So in such a circumstance, you may want to reduce the amount of risk that you actually take. But your attitude to the risk may remain the same.
Okay.
Good, but the logical thing to do may well be that you need to adjust the distribution of your portfolio and take things into the portfolio that have less fluctuations in value.
Okay.
Even though you feel you could take it, it may not be the best thing for you at that stage in your life. Another thing, of course, would be how much you have. So if you have several billions, if you take a couple million, if you take a high risk with a couple of your investment, the majority of your investments rather, it's not a big deal because you have sufficient to carry you through. And so it's a matter of how much you have as well. And
that is important.
and where you are too, because you could have the same portfolio mix, but you're in a different country or different circumstance where that mix is not appropriate. So, for instance, in countries where inflation is rampant, and we have a neighbor where that situation exists, so it's not, you don't have to imagine it. It's something that it's very, very, very real. Where your circumstances, although you would have done all the right things in terms of the allocation, but the political circumstances change, the economics of the country changes, and bam, the allocation that you thought was an excellent allocation ain't so good anymore, right? So it's a thing of the circumstance and indeed your age. But you one size doesn't fit all. One size most definitely doesn't fit all. And let's say I am approaching a particular age where ailments come on, right? And generally, when such ailments come on, you need to think of providing liquidity to deal with possible health issues. You may decide, okay, I will allocate X amount of my portfolio to deal with my possible circumstances, together with insurance, and so you provide for insurance and so to help you along. And you may decide, well, you know, I want to organize things for my children and whomever else before I pass away. And you have sufficient assets that you could start giving a will while you're alive, or distributions while you're alive. Good. You could possibly do that and retain stuff for yourself to deal with your personal circumstances. There are some people who feel that they don't want to do that, and maybe with good reason. Maybe they figure the assets would be frittered away. It's best they wait until they pass and let whomever else deal with it. But as a topic all by itself, that's probably beyond my capacity to deal with. There's a lot of psychology and family issues and so on there. But it's important to move your portfolio based on your circumstances. And each person's circumstances is likely to be different. So I wouldn't say that because you have reached 60, by definition, you have to sell all your equities and go into to to fixed income. It depends on your particular circumstances that you adjust your portfolio in conjunction with advice from your financial advisor, who would probably have other factors to bring to the table for you to understand. And you take all these ideas on board and come to a decision together with your financial advisor.
I heard you say, as we talk about portfolio and we talk about mixes and so on, I know there are many, and you made some references, some examples to billions and 30 houses and things like that. And I know many people don't believe that they have enough money or enough assets or anything to plan for. And I think this puts us into a lot of trouble, us in the 5.8G. And I like you introduced the thoughts of bringing your children along. Even if at this point in time, you have a small portfolio, and portfolio is whatever you have. Your one house, your one pension, your whatever it is. That's your portfolio.
Terry-Ann, I'm glad you just explained that.
Yeah.
Because many people think when you think portfolio, you're thinking having plenty money to do a lot of stuff. So yeah.
It is what you have, whatever it is. If it is $2,000 in a unit trust account and a NIS pension $3,000, and that's your portfolio, good, that's where we're starting. And given the reality that we are likely to live longer, we're in an inflationary cycle, a lot of people in that position just decide, I give up, I can't do anything, and it's to ruin. But I love the idea that you've brought in, and it's something we said before, where you bring your children along and you look at wealth management as a relay, so that children know, and no matter where they are, at what level, they can begin to build, so that even if your last leg may be a little troublesome or a little tight, you are assured that going forward, you build a nest egg that your children, who are the ones that will have the time, can continue with a wealth manager to build. And you are assured that your days may have ended in a bit of a tight situation, but the children would be much better on. Is that thinking that many of us embrace and understand?
And it's exceedingly critical. I'm almost getting goosebumps to talk about this issue. I haven't done the research, but I've read of various cultures who would leave one country with absolutely nothing. They just managed to get out, maybe with a suitcase, but with nothing. And they go into another country, and maybe a generation later, they are wealthy. Now, how is that? How is that possible? It's the wealth is planted in here. This is where the wealth is, in your brain. The wealth is also in your attitude.
Yes.
That is the attitude. And if you could teach your children the concepts of work and creativity and taking risk and accepting risk and accepting failure and accepting success and getting up when you fall down and going ahead, and so a man is, you planted a seed that could last for generations, no matter what happened. Don't matter what happened. And that's a critical thing to pass on. The mind, what is planted in the mind. And it's great that you could pass on physical wealth. I'm not knocking that, but if you could pass on to your children that ability to take life as it is, and if they get lemons make lemonade, so to speak, and continue to grow their education, good, keep learning for life, and keep an attitude towards business that is healthy, keep an attitude towards growing your wealth that is healthy, be willing to share this wealth out to others, and be generous. Man, they would do well anywhere.
Yep.
Anywhere.
I think one of the I wouldn't call it a pet peeve. I don't think it's as deep as that as yet, and it's linked to what you said. We as a Caribbean people, we have done that. We have done that. We have our parents, grandparents. We are among the biggest diaspora in the world. I think after Africa and India, the Caribbean diaspora is, well, China, Asia is probably giving us some competition. But we are originally a diasporic people. And our generations who have left have taken attitudes that of the same productivity risk taken, and they have done well. And sometimes I look at our generation, us, my colleagues, ourselves, and sometimes we tend to forget that while we are here, those who remain, the very attitudes that we would have put into our parents would have put into us and we would have put into our children. We have to do it, even if we remain here. Even if we remain here, you know, that the attitude of putting aside, investing, savings, and if your resources, your portfolio is not large enough, then bring your children into the process and put up a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan, or a 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year plan. You mightn't be around at the 25th year or the 20th year, but you certainly would have put the seed in. And in that way, everyone gets, including us, become more comfortable with time because we would benefit from the flows of income coming from that portfolio and so on. You know, it's not always that you have to leave. Yes, Jan?
No, right. I'm just saying I'm in total agreement with what Pete said, definitely, and what you just said. But somewhere along the line, Pete, I believe, this is my experience, that we have lost that way of thinking, the attitude change. I don't, maybe the influence from US, everyone was going up and everything have to be quick, and money is a lot of you know, you're looking, your spending is more spending than saving, because you want to live a certain life now, you know, you get more attractive to that type of life than looking at saying, okay, you're leaving for the generation, and you're understanding why our generation may have been gotten more educated, etc., was because of the sacrifice of our parents before. Somewhere along the line, to me, that has been lost. And now, and we're dealing with those within the 5.83, now our generation, because many of us have not passed on that information to the younger ones. We are, I must admit, we are actually suffering as a result, because for those who have really put aside and invested and everything, it is very hurtful to see that the generation just not making use of it and reinvesting and looking at, you know, generation. So I see there is a attitude change definitely with our age group, definitely, and it's not lost to still advise the younger age group. I hear you speak, Keith, and being in the also coming from the financial industry, I really see the need to push more for the younger ones to get advice from professionals like yourself. It is so needed. It's so needed because from where I stand, all the education, they have all the degree, etc. They're really lacking that information about a balanced portfolio, how to invest, etc. And there's definitely need for professionals like yourself, for your company to, and you all have been doing a very good job with that. I'm seeing getting the youths more, not necessarily youths, from where I stand.
And us.
Oh.
I'm saying youth, but to get that next generation to understand better about portfolio and bridge that gap that that is there right now.
Can I ask you before you comment on that and probably link it to another thing that we want to discuss? Because while Jennifer, you're correct, we are away from productivity, but are we swinging to the schemes and the swindles and they take a shortcut?
Yeah.
And therefore
get rich quick,
eroding that wealth base. Is that something that you're seeing, our patients?
Yes, well, I suppose the TV has a material impact on what people perceive a life should be and how quickly one achieves these things.
Like a Kardashian.
Yes, but these overnight success doesn't happen overnight. There's a song about that, and trying to get rich quick, you're probably going to fail. Many people who appear to have come into sudden wealth, it ain't sudden wealth at all. It's planning and working for years and years that you don't know what they went in or what the parents went in to for them to achieve this quote unquote sudden wealth. And what you may be just seeing is the end result of a process that could have taken 30, 40 years, right? And you see it and you figure, oh boy, they're so wealthy. Look at that, and I am not. But you don't know what sacrifices their parents went through to either educate them or put aside particular funds for them to start a business. You don't know. They don't go around and I'll go around with a placard and saying, I put aside this for my daughter or my son to do so and so and so, right? Or I invested in my son's startup business. Or you don't know any of that. You see the result, the end result, and you figure that that's it. So I don't think many of us are so fortunate to be overnight successes or to come into very sudden wealth. It's often enough a process, or maybe always a process, and you have to put in the work and be there. Show up so that the opportunities for you to make this wealth could flow your way. If you don't show up, it will pass you by. Good. If you were sleeping, all right, or not at work, all right, you get passed over. So I definitely agree that bringing, if indeed you have a situation where people perceive that they don't have to work for it and they shouldn't be investing, if that conversation needs to be reinforced, yes, there should be that continuation. But often enough, you have a situation of the messenger. Who do people believe?
Yep.
Do they believe some little snippet that they saw on TikTok about achieving wealth? Or would they believe a financial advisor, or would they believe a business person who has gone through the school of hard knocks? Which one of those messengers is the believable one? Or is it your parents are the believable one, or seeing an uncle or aunt who got it right? Would their message be more acceptable than a message from a stranger, or someone who you don't feel any connection with? Or that can't be me, right? I would never be able to do so and so and so and so. So it would be good if the messengers could go there and get the message out. I mean, there was a recent gospel, I think, about Christ and his apostles and the many other disciples that he sent out. Even Christ needed disciples to go out and get the message out.
72.
Yes. So I think that there have to be a number of messengers who would speak to different audiences to get the message out. Yeah. And hopefully the young people and whomever, as young, old, whoever, would be receptive to the message and don't just throw it out as, this can't be me, I would never be that. Because it's possible for all of us.
Yeah. Can I ask a question, even as we begin to get to the latter part of the interview? What are some of the mistakes that you've seen our cohort especially make? Let me ask it plain. How have we lost our money? What have we done?
Yeah, there are a few things that you do, and once again is the messenger. Many people take advice from people who they should not take advice from. Yes. People who are not expert, know absolutely nothing about what they're talking about, or may have ulterior motives.
Selling something.
I have heard about, over the years, about people losing their property, real estate agents and attorneys and friends and family, and in some cases, even their domestic help, giving little old ladies bad advice or outright theft. And so it's important to get the right advice from the right persons. I know that the SEC registers brokers and advisors, and so I haven't heard of many cases of people who were registered with the SEC who have ran off to Panama, so to speak, with people hard-earned, but I'm sure it happened. Good. And there are circumstances where people make mistakes, genuine mistakes, with financial matters and so on. But out and out theft, I haven't heard of people who are properly trained and properly registered, robbing the ill and the old, who are not able to do things for themselves and have to depend on other people. And that's generally where the exposure lies. there are many people who can't do things for themselves. Either they can't do it physically, or they put a handicap on themselves and as to what they are willing to do and understand, and entrust other people to either do the research for them or to ask questions. They feel that they can't ask questions because this person is supposed to know, and they hear about this. And con men are good at that, you know. They call names, they drop names, you know, to make you feel that they're in this particular environment and they know, right? And so people who are otherwise not exposed may not have the ability to go and check whether the message that they're getting is correct or valid, and get taken in.
Can I then ask you, as we wrap up, because we have covered the breadth, and I think we have very, and I have to thank you, I'm sure Jennifer within her own time, really alerted people to the importance of how you guard your money in this time of life. So I want to ask you, you are the chairperson of FIRSTLINE Securities, and a lot of us may, as I said before, believe that companies like yours and these investment houses, when they have a portfolio,
you have to have plenty of money. You have to have millions.
So can you tell us, what could one of our viewers who has a modest amount, probably has some children, concerned about making sure the next 20, 30 years goes well, and they have a couple of children, how can FIRSTLINE help that person in terms of making the best of this third act of life?
Well, for one thing, they could arrange to have an assessment of their circumstances, the psychological profile of what their capabilities are in handling risk, and we could generate an investment policy statement for them as to how they should allocate their assets going forward. Where you are is where you are. We can't change that. But we can help you chart a course going forward to where you should be or want to be, within the realm of what is possible, of course, because we can't promise anyone that they'll come in with $10 and next year they will leave with 10 million, right? So within the realm of what is probable and possible, we can generate a path for you to take you forward. We could also give you advice as to the need to prepare a will for your circumstances going forward. We can give you some other references to other professionals. So for instance, if you need tax advice, we could probably recommend you go to this accounting firm or whatever else to deal with your tax situation and so on. So we can guide you with certain aspects. We can even actually do it for you, having done up the policy for how you would convert where you are now to the future, right? Because we all have a bright future if we wouldn't embrace it, right? If we wouldn't take the steps necessary to get there. So once you come and you have the attitude that you want to improve your lot, stabilize your lot, go forward, And if you have bad habits, be willing to stop it, because there are some people, for instance, use their credit cards to the max and have charges, huge interest charges, which eat up their worth, right? And they may not notice it. So there are things you could do in terms of growing your income, and there are things that you may need to do to reduce your costs, right? So I would say the principal thing that we would offer you is advice as the way forward. And then the second thing we would do for you is to help you implement the way forward. So that's what we can do for you. And to the extent that there are issues that are beyond our competence, we would put you to the relevant professional, or guide you to the relevant professional that will deal with that aspect of your circumstances. Because we aren't doctors, so we can't give you advice about your medical situation and how you should treat with it. But all of those things are real. Those are real issues, and you can't just sweep them under a carpet and figure that you would give somebody advice and they have a material problem that is not within your realm to solve. So I just give that example to explain the situation. And by the way, you had made a point where I had talked about billions and so on before. I'm given to excesses in these matters to explain a point. Good? I always try to give some extreme cases so people understand exactly what I want to say. Right? Yes. And I give the example of the medical situation to indicate about what I want to say. There are areas that are not within our competence to give you advice on. And there are some areas that are very much in with our competence, and we would be able to discern between the two, give you the advice where we can, and refer you to where you need to go, where we should not be delving. And the future is bright. I want to leave that message. The future is bright. You can come out of the situation you're in. We can help you chart a course forward. And once you're willing to make the necessary changes, if there are changes required, because there could be some people who have it done right, and and all they need is just reinforcement to say, yes, continue along this path. And they may not know it, and they may not be speaking the right people, but over the years of experience, they may have happened on a formula that is working for them, and all they need to do is to stay the course, right? And don't expect overnight success. It will come. So yeah,
I think it's so important for us we'll go to the doctor, and we'll go to a mechanic, and we'll go to the relevant professionals. But for money, financial advisory, and Jennifer, I will give you the last word on this one. Because
no, I'm with Keith. I understand, because the attitude, as you said, has to be changed, because when it comes into money, people think that and you know, I've heard it said before, if I have no money, why am I going to someone to advise me about anything? You understand? Not recognizing the fact, as you said, Keith, you come as you are, whatever you have, and that advisor could definitely move you from where you are to where you would like to go. But it takes time, it takes a change of attitude, etc. And they have to be willing to put trust. It's about trust too. Trust.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, you talk about choose the right messenger, choose a professional, and trust. And I totally agree with you, Keith, with what you have said. And we have to start thinking differently and not feel that we need this, we need the millions to take action. You know?
Right. You have to take action now, or as soon as possible. as
Yes.
soon as possible.
And drag the children along and build up the family resources. Definitely.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
folks, you will have FIRSTLINE's credentials and numbers on the screen, and we strongly, strongly advise you.
Yeah.
Please don't think that you have nothing. Don't. You have 30 years still to go, and you're looking at your pot now. As Kit says, don't leave it in a savings account sitting down looking at you.
Yep.
Go get a contractor. We would recommend. Again, declarations, FIRSTLINE Securities are the people who manage my funds. And I am looking forward to a pretty comfortable retirement. I'm not wealthy, but because of their guidance.
But she has a portfolio,
Yeah, I
Yes,
got one.
yes.
I got one.
a solid portfolio.
And wealthy, that term wealthy is relative.
Yes. Yes. Mhm.
Very, very relative.
Yes.
So
First, like my little
I
pot in some portfolio. Oh gosh.
yes. Well,
Keith, thank you so much. Any parting words?
thank you all for asking me to share some words. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I hope that what I have said resonates with some people, that they would listen, because it's no point, well, not as no point. Sometimes some people take some time to learn and to accept the need that they have a problem and they need to change. So, but I'm hopeful out of this conversation that we have had, and the ones that you all have had before, that it tills the ground, so to speak, so that seeds will actually grow out of it, and people would be willing to take steps to improve their lot in life, and in a lot of their families too.
Great.
And maybe their friends too, because often enough people take example from people around them.
Yeah.
And they say, well, listen, so and so is doing so and so. Well, maybe I could do some of that too. So it could rub off on other people.
Definitely. Okay, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day and
You too.
the rest of the week.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Tarian, I don't have nothing else to add. I mean, Keith said it all, and it is time for us, the 5.8G, our generation, to take this seriously. Don't give up. Don't look like we have no money. So what sense it is now? You have time. We still have time to make those decisions. And you heard what Keith has said. So I just endorse exactly what was said before.
And I think, Jennifer, now that we've got the whole series in, think back to Jennifer Rouse. Think back to Dr. Lorraine Patience. Think back to the discussions we've had last week with the Sir Optimus Home, and we had lots of response from those.
Yeah.
And think about the things that Keith has said. We have issues as a cohort that we have to get clear in our heads and set our priorities. Mindset has been going through this right through, and we know there are questions. So, come Friday, we want to see you on board. Have a chat with us, with Dr. Alison Gibbons. Come and have a chat with Dr. Alison Gibbons. Let's, in a small, intimate group, really get ourselves organized. So as we go out, one more reminder, listen to the ad, and we'll see you on Friday.
Okay. Bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Alison Gibbons. I've been an experienced practitioner of family, individual, and couples therapy for many years. For the past 10, with some additional qualifications in gerontology, I've been focusing on the psychosocial aspects of aging, which means I help persons entering their 50 plus years to negotiate that third stage of life joyfully. But there are many things that steal your joy, included among them being stress and anxiety. Join me for a webinar on October 29th when we will be discussing how stress and anxiety steal your life and test your last nerve. We'll be looking at or inviting you at least to examine your vulnerabilities to stress and anxiety and to negotiate and develop some strategies for keeping stress and anxiety from stealing your joy. I look forward to your participation, your questions, your discussions as we journey this 50 plus path together.
50 plus tribe and follow us from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.